Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, an entitled stranger comes into my pizzeria and demands free food. I am the female owner and this guy claims to be the owner's husband. When I told him to please leave, he ended up getting violent and punched me. Here is how I dealt with this entitled embarrassing liar. My name is Jess and welcome to my week of hell. So first off, I'm the proud owner of Pop's Pizzeria, named after my father who helped me afford my business but sadly died before we opened. Since then we have been very successful and I was lucky to hire my girlfriend as our main chef. Of course, this also has come with its fair share of challenges, one of which being a man I will call Ken. And trust me when I say, this is just the tip of the iceberg. It started as an already miserable day in deep winter. The dark clouds that loomed overhead threatened rain with the occasional spontaneous shower releasing cold torment upon the passers-by. My pizzeria was located on the town's main street, meaning that it got a lot of foot traffic but not necessarily a lot of customers. As I sat bored behind the desk, I wished for customers to fall from the sky instead of rain, and you know what they say about being careful what you wish for. The chime of an old bell rang and woke me from my stupor as the door swung open. The customer appeared to be a youngish guy, possibly mid to late 30s, but very shaggy and messy. I welcome him in with enthusiasm replied by dismissal as he begins to list off his order. My first impression of the man was negative, but looking at his appearance with his dirty overalls labeled Ken, I assumed Ken had just finished a long day of work and I gave him the benefit of the doubt. While his pizza was being prepared, I tried to strike up small talk with Ken, but he ignored me as he scrolled through his cell phone in the corner seat. An awkward silence lasted for the rest of our wait, only interrupted by a notification from the kitchen, finally rescuing me from the tense and uncomfortable encounter. Despite his strangeness or rudeness, I still thanked him with a smile. Even bad customers were better than no customers at all. That smile faded when I began to realize he was not gonna pay. After marking the order in the cash register, I asked Ken for $10 as I held the pizza box over the counter to him. He raised his hand to grip the box and began to pull it away. Confused and cautious, I held onto the box and it remained in place. As his own confusion began to set in, he said with a deep and menacing stare, "Look, I'm the owner's husband, okay? She said I could pick this one up after work. Let's go." Expecting my immediate compliance to his order, he pulled again, but I held my grip. One thing he failed to realize yet was that he was already caught in a lie. I knew for a fact that he was not married to the owner because he was speaking to her. My initial confusion was quickly being replaced by a rumbling temper. This man thought he could just get free food out of my business by throwing my name around. I was grateful at this moment that I had hired no other staff who may be liable to let him walk away now, but not me. I hold out my other hand and in an overly forced smile I ask for the money again. "Please, sir." I don't think the manager would like that. At my insistence to fair pay, Ken now became much more aggressive, letting go of the pizza box to pace around the pizzeria in a temper tantrum. At the rising anger of the man-child in front of me, I was left stunned and unsure on what to do. They did not cover this scenario in Business 101. At the end of his rampage, Ken came back to the counter shouting, "Give me the pizza or I will fire your ass. Don't think I will. One phone call to your manager and you're a gone, little girl." I shook my head as I denied him again. This time though, I didn't want his money, I just wanted him out. As I ushered him pointedly towards the exit, he started a dramatic conversation to the manager as he had so often threatened, but I did not bend to his phony schemes. Urging him a little more forcefully now, as I lightly pushed and guided him to the door, he stopped his performance and swung at me. His fist connected with my eye, sending me falling back into the counter. The room began to blur and span, but through its fuzziness I made out the bare details of what happened next. My girlfriend now moved from behind the counter and launched herself at Ken, her years of Taekwondo experience easily outwitting and overpowering her feeble opponent. In a flurry of blows, she knocked Ken to the floor and he was out cold and made no further resistance. I was determined to make sure this guy did not get the last laugh. After Ken was restrained under a pile of pizza boxes and wrapped in tape, I moved into the back office to see what we could do to turn this around. If the police arrived now, all they would see is an unconscious idiot and our word as proof and our word against his. My panic was cut short as my eyes stopped their frantic path around the room, resting on a document marked CCTV Orbital Security. I had forgotten about the cameras I recently paid to be installed at the front of the shop. It was expensive, but due to recent break-ins in the area, I felt it was a necessary expense. By the time I heard the doorbell chime again, I was leaving the office with a videotape of recorded footage ready to supply as evidence to back up our story. Ken was still unconscious but began to stir as the concerned police officers unwrapped and gently assessed his condition. On noticing where he was, he jumped to his feet and tried to jump over the counter at me, with my girlfriend responding in defense. The police stood between them, preventing any further harm or charge. With tensions high, our cooperative questioning devolved quickly into an argument as we each tried to tell different versions of the incident. Ken held on to his claim that we had attacked him first, of course, but he did not know about the CCTV. As we stepped out, ready to be dragged into the nearest station for separate interrogation, I handed them the videotape explaining my surveillance footage on the CCTV cameras. My face lit up in delight as the police car drove off, taking only one screaming Ken away with them. Flash forward to a few weeks later, the court trial was over before the news even finished talking about it. Somehow it leaked onto social media and we became an overnight sensation. Hungry visitors now queued out the door to get a slice, eager to taste our pizza, as well as meet the local heroes. We found out later that we were not the only ones troubled by Ken, but the first ones to stand up against him and fight back. He was later jailed for a string of harassment and assault-related charges. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I guess, never mess with the owner of a pizzeria. I guess in this case, Ken might have been actually lucky to just end up on the floor, because maybe if you mess with other pizzerias, you might end up on the bottom of the ocean. Anyway, the next one is titled Bike Revenge. This happened a few years ago and I was reminded of it after another bike lock revenge. The town in which I live has fill-size bike lockers which are very secure. On these lockers are signs saying that you cannot reserve them by leaving them locked and empty. How it started, I regularly commuted from my hometown to the next big city. I used to cycle each morning to the train station, wheel my bike into a locker, lock it, and then go to work. And well, one morning I got there and all the lockers are used. It's a real pain, but I get my wife to drive in, take my bike home, and I go to work. Next morning I get to the lockers 30 minutes sooner, at 7:30, thinking I just needed to be there sooner to get a locker. But nope, all used. I start to wonder what's going on and get on my hands and knees and look under the doors of the lockers, and nearly all of them are empty, but locked by people. First, I try and be reasonable. I call the council, who have the "don't you dare lock these when empty" signs, and they avoid responsibility, saying it's the train station's responsibility. So I ask the station manager, who claims it's the city council's responsibility. So I go to eBay and make it my responsibility. It is frightening what you can cut through with a 20-pound pair of bolt croppers. The next Saturday I drive to the train station, and for every locker that is locked and doesn't have a bike in, I crop the lock and take it. About 80% of the lockers were like this, and then the sweet revenge happens on Monday morning. I turn up and just watch. People cycle up to their lockers and find that the lock is gone. No way for them to safely leave their bikes. I got to enjoy the dawning expression of surprise and then frustration on three people's faces as they had to go through the "what do I do? No way to lock my bike" pain that I did. Next Saturday I did it again. And then, to be honest, I became addicted to it. I drove out to the next two train stations on the line where our council's territory ended and did the same to the lockers there. I kept it up for about a month until the locks stopped being used to reserve lockers, but I still have the bolt croppers. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I would say these people got exactly what they deserved. If you enjoyed the story so far, please don't forget to like the video and maybe even post some star emojis in the comments if you wish to support me. Thank you so much. The next one is titled Very Spicy Please. So a little backstory, I work in a store that has samples. One sample is a really spicy hot sauce and it makes grown men cry. Well, that kids are not allowed to try that sauce unless they have permission from a parent. So this one boy and his mother, EK and EM as you probably know, EK tries some of our sauces, mostly mild ones, slightly spicy, but he found that spice way too hot already. EK eventually notices the super hot sauce and starts trying it, to which I say, "Oh, you cannot try that without parent permission. It's insanely hot and causes grown men to cry." EK, "Oh, okay." I thought that was the end of it, but boy, was I wrong. EK tells EM what I said in some twisted way or something, but didn't hear, and EM comes up to me and says, "How dare you tell my baby boy that he cannot try the hot one? He is way stronger and smarter than you. He got all A's in 3rd grade. A stupid retail worker at a tourist town is too stupid to understand. Just do your job like you're trained to do and let my boy try." Me already very annoyed. "Ma'am, I told your son it's very hot and very painful. He shouldn't try it, but if he had parents' permission, it's okay, I guess." This is when I had the idea, under one condition of course. EM, "Well, hurry up and tell me what to do. Your presence is killing my precious baby boy's brain cells." Me, "All you gotta do is sign a form saying you knowingly and willingly allow your child to try the hot sauce. I just have to write one up, of course." EM, "Yeah, whatever, just hurry up." So I wrote out a basic form along the lines of, "I hereby allow my son to try the very spicy hot sauce at establishment, knowing fully well how hot and painful this sauce can be." Well, now she had already bought something in this store using the card and had to sign the receipt, so I asked her to sign the form the same way she signed the receipt for extra proof that she agreed. So she quickly signed the form I wrote, and EK dunked his sample stick into the sample as far as it could go, which is about an inch deep, and cleans it off in one go. Now, when I said this sauce is very spicy, I was not kidding. Jalapenos rate out at around 1500 to 2000 Scoville units, whereas ghost peppers rate out at 1 million Scoville units. This sauce rates out at a whopping 750,000 Scoville units and uses pepper extract to reach that heat. And if you didn't know, pepper extract is an oil, and oil will linger in your mouth, so this sauce will burn for a good 20 minutes. A good 1 second goes by after EK tried the sauce until you saw his face contort into sheer terror and agony. He started crying, blubbering, screaming, incoherently speaking at the same time. It was quite the sight to behold. EM, "What have you done to my baby? He eats hot Cheetos all the time. He can handle hot. You must have poisoned him." Hot Cheetos don't even really get near as hot as jalapenos. Me, "This sauce is far hotter than a habanero and at least a few hundred times hotter than hot Cheetos." EK, "Mom, it hurts." Me, "I'm gonna sue you for poisoning my baby, and now give me hot chocolate milk for free. We sell hot chocolate milk for $1.50. Me, "I'm sorry ma'am, but I cannot do that. I was trying to only sell the chocolate milk for $1.50 per bottle, so you gotta pay like everyone else." At this point, she is screaming so much you could probably mistake her for a flock of chickens all getting strangled or something. But I just ignored her until she stormed out in a huff. And yeah, ripe stars, it is clear that this Karen is a terrible mom, and I honestly feel bad for the kid because obviously, since he is a kid, he just did not know what he was doing. I'm really curious how these people who have mega entitled parents like Karen would grow up in the future. I hope they end up better than their parents. And the next one is a malicious compliance story. What seems like a lifetime ago, when I was 18, I coached indoor soccer at the local YMCA. It was a co-ed league and the ages were 6 to 8 if memory serves me well. My team comprised of varying degrees of skill and interest. One of the rules was that there was free substitution in a game. That just means that you can pull kids in and out of the game when there is action going on, and I also tried to have the kids play equal amounts of time. Now onto the story. We were maybe halfway through our season, and by this time I had gotten to know the kids I coached pretty well. Most of the kids I would leave in for about 3 minutes. One boy and one girl I would leave on a little more because they were pretty good. And then there was Sam. I would only leave him in for at the most 90 seconds, usually closer to 75 seconds. Despite this, over the course of a game, he played almost as much as everyone else, and the difference was negligible. We are still in the first half and I pull him out like normal. And then I hear some lady scream, "Let my boy play! Stop taking him out!" I knew the rules and I'm talking to the sports director. I guess that's her equivalent to talking to the manager. I try to ignore her and keep her coaching, but her yelling never ceases. Other parents are looking but not saying anything. This has gone on for about 5 minutes and I can take it no more. This shrill entitled mom has broken me. "Fine, I will leave him in longer," I yell. Leave him in I did. Almost as if on cue, just past 90 seconds, Sam loses interest in the game and starts chasing an imaginary tail. At 100 seconds he continues chasing his tail and barks. At about 2 minutes he pulls his shirt over his head and plays his belly like drums. And then I hear, "Take him out! Take him out, please!" I looked down the line and made eye contact with her and smiled. I took him out and it was a short but sweet encounter. The kid just had the attention span of a goldfish. Neighbor rented out my private parking spot while I was in the hospital and then stole my car. I have this one set of neighbors that are famous for always getting involved in get-rich-quick schemes. You know, the ones where they try to force you to join and buy things to sell them so you can try and fail to reach the top of the triangle. And by the way, guys, isn't that called pyramid schemes or MLMs? Anyway, they always fail because a few months later they have another one they are bugging all of us to join and buy products from them. This is just to show that I was not dealing with the smartest people in the world here, since they were repeating the same mistake over and over again. They would also get annoyed when I didn't want to buy anything, because I had no need for it and I knew buying it once meant they would never leave me alone again. They are the husband and wife from hell. Where I live, the parking works in a way that you can opt in or out of a parking space. They cost money, so some people who don't have a car or don't mind parking on the street usually save some. I like having my parking spot because there is no way I want to come home from the grocery store or work to find that there are no spots anywhere close. And then I would have to walk either lugging things or alone in the dark. My spot is not the best, but it gets the job done. Side note, the neighbors don't have a spot and are famous for trying to find out which ones are not currently owned and parking in them. However, I had an emergency and ended up needing to be in the hospital for a few months. Trust me when I say, it was horrible and I hope I never have to do something like that again. All of the information for this story happened when I was at the hospital. I did not know about it till later, but for this story I'm just going to say what happened while I was unaware and in the hospital. After a few weeks, I could only assume that neighbors thought I was gone. There was no sight of me and my car was sitting in the spot without being moved the entire time. I was still able to pay my rent, so I still owned everything, including my parking spot. I don't know what they were thinking was going on, that I just left and did not bring my car with me for some reason. Either way, they ended up breaking into my car one night and stealing it right out of the spot. Then they moved it a few blocks away while they were waiting for an offer to come in online. That's right, they were trying to sell my car like I had just given it away. It got worse though. Since my spot was now empty, my neighbors thought of another idea that could make them a ton of money. They were telling people that it was their parking spot and they did not have a car right now to use it. So they would be willing to rent it out on a weekly basis for cheaper than just buying a normal spot. For the rest of the time I was in the hospital, they were making money by renting out my spot to people. The spot that I was still paying for and thought that my car was safely sitting in. Jump to when I finally got to go home and saw that my car was missing. Not only that another random car was parked in its place, I did not think it was the neighbors and thought maybe my payments did not go through and I lost my spot and the car ended up getting towed or something. I was wrong though, and the owner did not know anything about somebody else trying to buy my spot. Since I was not 100% sure, he said that he would wait to see who the owner of that car was and find out what was going on. That person was just as clueless and said that they rented it from neighbors. He told the man that he never saw a car with my description parked in the spot. I was furious about what the neighbors did, but that was a matter between the owner and them for selling a spot that did not belong to them. For me, I had assumed my car was long gone, and while I could sue them for money they probably no longer had, I needed a new car now. I went online and started searching up cars that were the same as my old one, because I really like how that make and model of car felt. That was when I saw my car for sale and I could not believe it. I knew it was my car too, because while they did block out the license plate number, they did not bother to get rid of any of my bumper stickers. They also showed the side of the car where I could see a scratch that I had gotten last year on it. This was my car and I was so angry I thought I might end up back in the hospital. So I decided to message the buyer, who obviously was my neighbor, but I gave them a fake name. I asked them questions like how old it was and why they were getting rid of it. Then questions he could not seem to come up with an answer, like how many miles were on the car and the last time it had been serviced. Finally, I told him I wanted to buy it and made a time to meet with him tomorrow to get it. The look on his face when I was standing there at the meeting place when he pulled up in my car was priceless. He did not have a key, so there was damage from where he hot-wired it. I put the camera and video on my phone and I was ready to call the police on this man. He knew that running away was not going to help, so he just sat there defeated while the police came and listened to both the stories. Mine you already know, but his was the craziest thing ever. He said that he used to study law and he knows that after a certain time without being used, an idle car in a spot basically goes up for grabs. That is not, nor was it ever, a law, and the police officer knew it. He was put in handcuffs for Grand Theft Auto and taken to the station. He ended up making a deal so that if he paid to fix the damages to my car and give me back the money I paid for the parking spot while I was in the hospital, the illegal money he made went to the owner. If he did those things, which he did, he would only get probation, which meant if he was caught doing something else illegal, he would end up going to jail for stealing my car as well. I kind of wished that he went to jail so I knew I wouldn't have to deal with him again. I did partially get my wish in the end. The owner was not happy about what he did, and since they didn't have any money, they could not afford rent. They got evicted and had to move somewhere else anyway. Meanwhile, I am feeling fully back to normal and wanted to share this story to remind all of you that stealing a car should only happen in a video game. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, then please don't forget to check out my endless playlist, which has thousands of videos and hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much, and I will see you again tomorrow.